I speak, and I create videos, and basically everything I do is on the intention of inspiring people to use their gifts to make a difference. Whether it's writing on my blog, whether it's writing a book, whether it's writing a spoken word piece and putting it online, my hope, or going to an event to speak, my hope is to somehow get people to think differently about what art is and what creativity is. And I guess if I were to boil it into a sentence, what I do is I try and notice things, and I make things based off of what I notice, and then I share those things that I've made.
I think that does about cover it. That was pretty impressive in one sentence.
That's the best I got for now.
Well, great. So I know you from the Anima Series, which I'm a huge fan of. Could you tell the blogosphere a little bit more about the Anima Series and kind of how that relates to what you said of noticing things and creating something from what you notice and things like that?
Right, yeah. So the Anima Series is something that was started in July of 2013, so almost 2 years ago now. But before that, it was really created long before that, and it just took that long for it to get the name, the Anima Series. I guess growing up, I always was writing. You know, my first memories of writing were before I even knew how to spell or read. But I would stand at our computer, which was really just like a word processor, and I would tell stories to my mom, and I would make her type them out. And so right there, I began developing these gifts of storytelling and speaking those stories out loud in front of people. And as I grew up, I sort of shied away from any opportunity to do that because I didn't want the responsibility. I was always being told by my teachers that I had these gifts of leadership and of teaching, but I didn't want the responsibility that came along with those. And if I just kept quiet and stayed in the back, or if I just made jokes, then I wouldn't have to take responsibility. But then, as I grew up more, I got my first summer job, which was at a summer camp teaching students ages 8 to 18 theater, teaching them dance, teaching them acting, all that stuff. And that was the first time that I was forced to get up in front of a group of people and to say something. And when someone puts a microphone in your hand, you have to find something to say. So I began developing this voice. And at first it was just repeating instructions. And then the more I did that, the more I started to realize that teaching is far more than repeating instructions. In fact, teaching is the number one way that we can influence somebody else. The more I started focusing on the values that I was trying to teach these kids, the more I tried to find creative ways in which I could do that. So I started experimenting with spoken word poetry and songwriting and all this other stuff. And I found a propensity or a talent for the spoken word. And I would go home at night, I'd write something up, and then I'd bring it to camp the next day, and I would ask the head counselor, hey, I wrote this last night. Can I share it with the students? And for some reason, they said sure. And I started to share them. And so after I graduated college in 2013, I knew that that was probably the last time I was going to work in this camp. And so I got a few friends together. I said, hey, I would love to put one or two of my spoken word pieces on video so that these campers that I've worked with for the past 8 years can take these words home with them. And that's where Who You Are, A Message to All Women came from. We got together, borrowed a camera from a friend's dad, went into a high school, kind of snuck in, actually. We weren't really supposed to be there. And
that's awesome.
And the only thing we wanted was to just create this video for the kids that had already heard this message. And so we sent it out to about 100 of them. And then it sort of took off from there and went semi-viral.
Yeah.
And one of the friends that I made the video with, he said, you know, we should make more of these. You know, you have more things that you've written. Why not keep making videos? And I said, all right, let's do it. And then we sort of made another video and said, okay, let's make one more. You know, that one wasn't too bad of a failure. Let's make another one. Let's make another one. There was never this big plan to, oh, we're going to start this thing that's going to change the world. We're going to start this thing that's going to get hundreds of thousands of people to watch it. That was never the goal. It was, we wanted to make one video. And then when one video wasn't enough, we wanted to make another one. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you look at a lot of things that have been quote-unquote successful, whether they're blogs, whether they're, you know, artistic projects, or whether they're businesses, they didn't start with this idea of, we're going to change the world. Mm-hmm. They started with, we have one little goal that we want to accomplish. And we accomplished it, and that just wasn't enough for us, so we took it to the next step. And then you sort of find yourself along the way. But yeah, so that's kind of how the Anima series, and now right now I look at the Anima series, it's just another way in which I can share the things that I'm noticing and making and learning in my own life.
Yeah.
And always encourage other people.
Well, you got one success story here. They've been incredibly encouraging to me. I remember one thing that I've heard from a couple, I think 2 of the videos that is my favorite thing to say to myself all the time now is, failure is nothing more and nothing less than the world by which I walk my path of success. That really, honestly, truly, like, is not just something that's kind of catchy to say. I think that it really, really does speak to so many levels of life to me. But another thing I like about what you said was when you set out to make a goal or any goal, I think it is a really kind of wise thing to not set out to so much change the world or make any like overarching, reaching change, because I think sometimes when you set out to do that, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Sometimes it might be motivating at first, but it might also seem like a pressure cooker, like, oh, well, I said I was going to do this, so I got to do that now. So I think that's another good message, I think, to spread to others. If you want to find a better way of doing the things that you love to do, you know, start small and then just keep going.
The trap also can be for some people is that the gifts that I've been given are teaching, leadership. There are a lot of gifts that are very public and up in front of a crowd. Mm-hmm. But as you would get to see, if you got to know me in my personal life, my gifts as far as one-on-one are not great. I'm not the best with one-on-one, especially with people I don't know very well. And what a lot of people forget is that when they see a video like that, they see me on YouTube, or they see Jefferson Bethune, these other big YouTubers with millions of views, or they see people up in front of these gigantic crowds, they think that's the only way to make a difference. Which is not true. Those are just the ones that you see because they're the most public. Where in fact, you know, I say this a lot, that some are called to change 1 million lives, and then others are called to change one life 1 million times. And that is just as valid. Yeah. And that is just as powerful. And not a lot of people, I think, are willing to accept that gift, that, oh, my gift maybe isn't teaching, but maybe my gift is hospitality, and I can invite someone into my home and make them feel so welcome. Mm-hmm. You don't have to start a YouTube channel to change the world, or to have a ministry or to speak to people. It's not about the YouTube channel. It's actually more about using whatever your specific gifts are. Yeah. And if they don't match up with what mine are, that's fine.
Because in my own life, as I sit here and reflect on gifts and things like that, I think when you're younger, it's very easy for adults to point out certain things in you that you may not see. And I know you mentioned that this is what happened to you, and I know that's what happens to me in my life. And it's things that, like, I'm beginning to uncover and discover, but I wonder sometimes if there is something that no one even saw coming that, like, might be lying underneath. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. My biggest advice to people is to stop asking the question, what are my gifts, and just choose something and do it. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think we discover our skills by someone telling us what our skills are. Mm-hmm. We discover our skills by doing things, and either us realizing, hey, I'm good at this, or us doing things and someone else watching us doing those things and saying, hey, you're good at that. For me, like, I wish that I had time to list out all of the things that I tried and failed at before I found the Anima series. And there's or before I found my blog, or I wish for anyone who reads this or listens to this, go to my blog and go to the first couple months of posts from almost 4 years ago now, and you will read how terrible those posts are. You know, and I have tried so many things. You know, I've published a couple books now, but for those couple books that I've published, there is 100 that I started and didn't publish and failed at. And once again, it goes back to that quote you pointed out earlier about failure. You know, failure is a prerequisite to success in anything. And it's only really by trying, I truly believe this, it's only by trying a bunch of things that we find the thing that we're actually good at. And if you find you're not good at it, and you don't even like doing it, then stop doing it. Quit it, you know? There's nothing wrong with that either. I think a lot of the times we think when we start something, we have to finish it. But if you realize that you're terrible at it, and it doesn't bring you any joy, stop doing it and do something else.
Yeah.
Like, you know, right now, especially in your 20s, now, you know, most people don't have a family, you know, not a family, but they don't have kids, you don't have a bunch of responsibilities yet necessarily. So you have the leverage to fail. You know, and one of my favorite authors, he says the best kind of failure is failing so that whoever fails the most wins. Mm-hmm. Because if I fail, but I still afford myself the opportunity to play again, then I'm still in the game.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I love that imagery and that analogy, because do you remember the game of life, ever playing it as a kid?
The board game?
Yeah, the board game.
Absolutely.
I remember playing it when I was younger and feeling like this isn't a joke. Maybe around the time when I was applying to colleges and really stressed out about it, I was like, this isn't a joke. This isn't a game. Like, life decisions are big, important. And now that I'm at that place, like I've gone to college, I've gone to grad school, I feel like I'm finally getting the fact that there is no finish line. Like you're still in the game. Like you always are creating or making or doing or being something. And
yeah.
And that's the beauty of life. And like, it's okay, like you said, to kind of try something else, do something different. And I think that that's something that kind of gets lost in this society of always trying to accomplish and achieve and be this and be that and do this and do that. It's okay to change your mind as long as you're moving forward in a way that allows your spirit to kind of go in the way that it wants to go, like follow its path. So I like that game analogy a lot. Great. So you've mentioned some books and things like that. So do you want to just kind of give my blogosphere ways that they can find you or get your content and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to follow me and to find the stuff that I do is to go to my blog, which is just my name, JonJorgensonblog.com. Jon without an H, Jorgenson like son of Jorgen with a J. JonJorgensonblog.com. You'll find my blog post there. I post a blog every day, Monday through Friday, and then I also have, you find tabs for my books there. You can find ways to buy my books, or I have a book on there for free right now that you can get. And then the best way to contact me is either through email, Jon Jorgenson, then the letter 3@gmail.com, or on Twitter, I'm just @Jon Jorgenson. Those are the two ways to contact me. I check and answer every single email, and I'm very active on Twitter. I'm addicted to it, and it's a problem. It's fun because I get to talk to people. So that's the best way to know more about me.
Well, Jon, thank you so much for sharing some time with me today. I feel like I've been inspired in different ways, and I'll reflect on some of the things you mentioned, and I hope that my people who are able to listen to this interview will be able to take something from it as well.